Awesome, folks. Welcome to this session. Thank you so much for being here. We are super excited for the turnout, and me and my friend Dimitris are going to take you through this session. I am Shafali Dua. I'm in the business of helping you provide more CX tools to not just measure customer experience, but excel at it and go from there. Today's topic that we have brought to you in this session is future-proofing contact centers in the age of continuous AI development. It's not just about modernization, it's about also keeping modern with the AI advancements that are coming to bear, if you may. The market space is pretty much changing all the time. So, what do you consider when you're making some of these decisions for, how should you think about technology, how should you think about upgrades in your contact center? I'm sure a lot of you are weighing, how can I reduce my cost of operations? How do I simplify these operations? How do I ensure I'm meeting my compliance and obligatory requirements, if you may? And more important than that, can I push the top line? Right? Is my sales and marketing to the point? Are they responding to some of these messages that I'm putting in front of my customers? Then you go from there. And if you think of it, it pretty much boils down to time required to improving your CX. Retail is influencing a lot of what customers expect out of the experience with your platform when they are interacting with you. They want to know right that second where the order is. They want you to anticipate what their problem is even before they tell you what they are calling you for. Proactive communications is the name of the game, and if you are late, you will lose market share. And all it takes is like one single experience which did not go as well for a consumer to reconsider, hey, what are my other options? And staying top of mind of yes, I have to improve the CX experience over and over, day and day again, is something that we are hearing, at least from our customers, on what is important, and then you go from there. So what are the challenges on delivering the AI promise to a CX reality? We are seeing a lot of disjointed experiences. So one of our customers confided in us and said, literally, they're dealing with 25 different vendors to deliver a CX experience in their contact centers. They had a vendor for chat, they had a vendor for SMS, they had a vendor for WhatsApp, there was a vendor for voice, there was a vendor for email. Analytics, you can slice and dice it and you'll somehow get to 25. I haven't made the count, but this is the reality of where most contact centers are. And by the way, if you made a change in like one simple process, coordinate all through those vendors, get implementation codes from all those different SI partners to essentially make that a reality, you've lost time as soon as you thought about what you wanted to do, right? Multiple AI tools, if they're calling like the chat versus if they're calling from a voice, they're getting like different answers back. There's inconsistency in how you would take a question on a self-serve platform, whether they're calling an agent and everything. And to top it all commercial models, someone has locked in agent pricing or a per year pricing or like per minute pricing. So how do you manage your costs of running an efficient contact center while making sure you're providing like top-class CX experience? So essentially, the way to think about this problem, and this is what we are doing at Amazon. I am a product manager for a product called Amazon Connect. It's the contact center in the cloud. And we focused on like 4 personas, if you may. So it starts with the customer, right? So what would the customer need? AI first. What tools can we provide the customer to go through their problems? How do we help the agent if the call came in and your self-serve tools were not able to answer those questions? How can we empower the agent to address that question? So by the way, your bot should feel like you spoke to a human, and your agent should feel like you spoke to someone as intelligent as a bot who had access to all the knowledge repos and was able to solve those problems and go from there. We also focus on the supervisor experience, right? So improving quality quality of your calls and quality of your conversation, even by like 5%, can be a huge mover in how your CSAT scores are and how the customer experiences your technology and the conversations and the interactions that they're having with your contact center. So how do we make sure that the supervisors are empowered to use automation and scale and see not just randomly jumping into calls, but very strategic about their selection of where to intervene and where not to intervene. And of course, the admin experience as well. A lot of us, have like centralized IT. And how do you make sure, when you're leveraging some of these technologies, whether it's self-serve generative AI, whether it's conversation analytics, whether it's QA, whether it's forecasting the need of your contact centers on a day-to-day basis, they are being consistently rolled out in different parts of your organization. And admins are not like getting frustrated about, hey, I now have to write a new integration. Can we make it a click away, a simple decision as soon as you've identified the need? Can the tools respond to and make it a self-healing contact center, if you may? So within the platform itself, what we are thinking of is a complete one-stop shop where, starting from self-service, we move to like supervisor empowerment, we go to agent empowerment. We look at how do we personalize and proactively communicate with the customer where the call doesn't even have to be made. So from a self-serve perspective, having like unified bot analytics, like which bots are doing well, which bots are failing intents, can we quickly surface that? And by the way, the calls that actually went to your agents, why did they have to go that side? What can we do further to optimize the bot experience, where your human capital is used for truly the most strategic problems versus the simple and the mundane are taken care with the self-serve options, if you may. We are also looking at agent assist. So bringing all the knowledge repos together where it's not just powering the self-serve bots, but the same bots are also helping your agents to come up with something which is a curated, a very concise answer to the question that was just asked by the customer. To, okay, these are the simple steps that I will take to resolve your problem. Instill confidence in the caller that, yes, I am the best expert. I have full control of the situation. And by the way, these are the steps I'll take you through to close things out. We are able to help them and nudge them when they're not showing empathy. Hey, this call is going negative, the tone is there, let's get it back on track. A lot of agent assist focus is within the platform itself, if you may. By the way, there is nothing like it if you can save the current call with a customer. Of course, post-contact analytics is also interesting, but when the customer is with you, providing that timely support can improve not just CX, reduce your operations costs. Customers are not waiting in line to get their answers back. This self-serve and agent serve is essentially the area where you can have a big difference in your CX, if you may. We are also, from a supervisor perspective, one of our customers mentioned that back in the day, they were in a very regulated industry like financial services. A lot of auditing is there. You have to say a few disclaimers out. You have to stick to certain scripts. So with automation provided within the tool, we are now able to ensure that, yes, the proper introductions were made, the proper disclaimers were set out. If a sales promotion had to be brought in the first 2 minutes of the call, was that brought in or not? If it was not, then can we nudge the agent to bring that up and go from there? If some vulnerability was detected on the call, like a financial vulnerability for the customer, we can flag that and automatically have the supervisor barge in, which can have like higher levels of permissions to help the customer and then go from there. So saving time for the agent to actually ask the supervisor to join, we proactively have the right person join the right call at the right time and then solve things. So within the platform itself, by the way, one part of the equation is feeding the other, where we have access to your data anyways. We can tell, okay, this queue is understaffed than the other one, and making those dynamic routing decisions where it doesn't even feel like, okay, this was a logical thing that should have happened if a human was in charge, is some of the aspects that we are really zooming in and focusing on. Using automation, the customer that I was talking about went from 2 to 3% of QA of their calls to like 40% QA of their calls, and they're making their way up to 100%. I go back to one of my sayings is like, there are only two types of pains. There is pain of discipline or pain of regret. So you pick the right pain and then you go from there. The pain of discipline is doing 100% QA, identifying those problems ahead of time before it becomes a compliance or a regulatory issue. To give you an example, one of our medical firms were talking about, they were making outbound calls for selling a medicine, but they cannot say anything out of script, right? But the contact center industry is prone to attrition. So as new agents are coming in, how do you make sure that they are in compliance, are on script and everything else? With using this QA automation, they were able to identify agents who were going off script and quickly rectify those behaviors to coming back to compliance. And this was pretty much cost of doing business, and then you go from there. So essentially what we are gearing towards and what we are building towards is AI every year, no additional decisions required, no complex third-party integrations required. With a click of a button, if that is the AI that you need for the moment, you should have access to it. Whether it's changing a bot, whether it's improving the agent real-time assistant options, if you may, or extracting some information when reducing after-call work to 0. We are listening to the conversation anyways, and if there were like 5 different fields that we have to fill, we'll be able to extract them for you and pre-fill them in the destination applications, opening up the time for the agent to serve the next customer, and then you go from there. Essentially, this is where we really help you get to a more confident move to an agentic future. As your channel mix is also changing, you will see more of your volumes go from like the voice channel maybe to the chat channel, and similar analytics is available all across the board, bringing up themes. Why are your customers calling you? What are the most important problems on where you can make a difference, and then go from there. So this is a 360-degree view of essentially having an all-round analytics available right at your fingertips. Not just the transcript, but also the summary of the call is available. Conversation analytics metrics are there. You're able to follow along with the conversation because of screen recording. What happened on the agent's desktop at that point in time? Why was the conversation slow? Can we make it go faster by improving our tools? You'll be able to dive into it, provided you're using some of this AI, which is like all inbuilt natively into the platform. A lot of our customers mentioned that they've done a lot of GenAI pilots, but they have not scaled or made an impact at a production scale. Having this natively available where you can customize your bots, use the language models that you want, and make the interactions very specific to your business units, you're able to scale, operationalize AI, and get the value of it right off the bat, if you may. So this is another example of insights into the bot. So previously we were too focused just on the agent experience, but now bringing the entire picture in. What happened in the self-serve part of the conversation? How did the transition from the agent to from the bot to the agent go, and back and forth is all captured within one interaction, if you may, giving you a little bit better appreciation of your end-to-end customer journey. Which were the high points? Which were the low points? And then you further optimize and go from there. We, by the way, now support 65 locales. Part of personalization, part of great CX experience is speaking the language of your customer. You pick the language, we are there for you, and whether it's real-time agent assistance, whether it's transcription support, doing those after-call work, essentially we are able to go through a slew of those languages and make the conversation very personalized to the person in focus, if you want. Traeger Grills, one of our customers, uses almost any AI we release. They are the first customers to essentially adopt it and operationalize with it. They were able to improve their customer satisfaction scores from like 45% to 94% when they had end-to-end visibility of how their interactions are going. They were able to get their first contact resolution up from 35% to 75%. truly understanding, where the call drivers are, end-to-end using generative AI to understand what are the call patterns, which part of the leg took the longest, and visualizing that experience, if you may. Toyota, one of our customers, has also used conversation analytics within the Connect platform to understand some of their newer model releases, what is the customer reaction to it, right? So which models are working better, what features are appreciated, if there were certain ads that were mentioned, they wanted the efficacy of, this ad is actually leading to a sales for us, and what are the pain points were clear as soon as Toyota was looking at their call data to dive deep and understand what do they need to do to improve their model releases and go from there. We also have Air Canada. Air Canada was able to get to a 78% containment rate with self-serve within Connect, and part of it was ensuring the air agent gets routed the call, which they are able to answer. It was a third-party vendor call. It was identified and routed to the right personnel. And this freed up a lot of the agent time and reduced wait time significantly for Air Canada by understanding and uncovering the wealth of information that your customers are calling and already sharing with you, if you may. As a last call to action, I would strongly urge this group to start your own CX flywheel, and it starts with a very experiment-driven approach, a very customer-centric approach, if you may. So look at, which can help you push the bounds of business outcomes. If there was a new business problem that your board is working on and wants you to address, start with measuring the CX as it stands today, and you further build on top of it and go from there. You will not only improve customer experience, you will lower your cost of operations by identifying and attacking those problems in a very much a metric-driven approach, and increase adoption and loyalty for your products and services. With that, I would like to call Dimitris on and introduce herself and take us to the rest of the presentation.
Thank you so much. My name is Dimitris Bryant. I am Senior Director for Support Services with Priceline. And today, I'm just here to tell you about our experience in AI and how we've used it to optimize our contact center. So before I jump into all of that, does everybody know that I'm not talking about the pharmacy, I'm talking about the online travel agency. There are two, often confused. So we're talking about the online travel agency, Priceline, that is actually one of the country's leading online travel agencies. Currently, adjusting the bifocal there, currently we have about 1.2 million accommodations over 116 different countries right now. So we are globally changing the way travel operates and the way travel looks. To do that, we have to make sure that we don't just evolve, that we adapt constantly. If evolution takes time, adaptation is something that can happen quickly, in the moment, and can actually meet the customer where they are today. Our customers' needs are evolving. We all deal with it in contact centers. Call volumes are changing. World events are happening. Environmental changes are happening, and every day people are calling in at different rates, different volumes, and honestly with different requests of our agents. So one of the things that we want to talk about today is how we've used AI, how we've used chatbot, how we've used even automation to meet the needs or the demanding needs of our customers. Okay, so how do we do this? First of all, we invested in cloud-native platforms. We created composable AI. So we didn't just build an AI system, we built systems that worked well together. We also made sure that we had modular automation. And we use the three in combination, again, to continuously adapt to our customers' needs. Why did we want to do this? Again, things happen in the world every day. Our customers' needs are evolving. That impacts our overall approach to those needs. So we wanted to make sure that we could scale globally and service individuals where they were in the moments that they were experiencing. Our actual purpose is to help our customers experience the moments that matter. And each and every action that we take ensures that every time we can deliver on that promise. Priceline treats its contact center like a living entity, continuously changing, continuously moving wherever our customers need us to go. So, what exactly did we do? That all sounds really pretty, right? What exactly did we do? The first thing we did was invest in cloud-based solutions. The second, build a data ecosystem. And last, but certainly not least, implement a model that constantly allows us to do A/B testing and to then undergird all of that with continuous AI innovation. So that is our secret sauce. I could stop the presentation there. I won't, but I could. So what did that result in, right? The first thing we were able to do is create call summarization. How many of you have ever looked at some of your call center documentation and it was paragraphs of nothing but letters, and for people like me, I didn't know what it meant. I'm gonna be honest. Especially that first month, I was like, what is A? It didn't really have meaning, and it didn't get to the information that we needed to know. So one of the first things that we did after we had this process in place was look at call summarization and how do we implement that. We also layered that same system into our customer satisfaction and insights program so that we weren't always mining those CSAT scores. Those CSAT scores were mined and delivering information back to us. We also personalized our customer responses so that our customers began to not feel like they were interacting with bots or automation when they were talking to us. So if you said to us, Robin, the call center agent was great, however, I don't like that thing that now I have to do to make this work for me, it didn't just say, great feedback. It says, guess what? We're so sorry you had that experience. We will make sure that information gets to our administrative staff who will address it in the future. So there's a personalized experience that makes you feel like you're heard from. And then last but certainly not least, we began to create content using this same process. That content meant that it was repeatable, it was consistent across all centers, and it actually matched with all of the other activities that we had in this whole AI and automation world. All right, so that again all sounds great, but Demetris, tell me what you did. I'm gonna walk through 4 use cases with you. One that's dedicated to AI and automation, one to emergency management, one for chatbot, and one for content creation. The first one shows how we leveraged AI and automation to really streamline our support model. The second one taught us how to drive travel disruptions. We've all had them, right? You're on your way to the airport and all of a sudden it says, your flight is delayed by 5 hours, but you need to be at the location in 4. And it was supposed to be a 2-hour flight. So helping you to do that. And then Priceline deployed Penny, our AI-powered chatbot. Hopefully you've interacted with Penny. She's completely awesome, and we'll talk more about her later. And then last, again, we simplified our learning content using AI-powered tools. It made us faster, but it also made us sound the same. And it allowed us to apply the same human personalization that we wanted, not just in our bot world, but also in our contact center agent world. So the first use case is really around automation and AI. And specifically, it's dedicated to call summarization, quality assurance, and responsive CSAT. And those sound like 3 separate things, but we tackled it as one project. And the reason why we wanted to tackle it as one project is because we wanted things to seem seamless. At the very top of the slide, you see a quote that says, we didn't bet on a breakthrough tool. We built a system that was ready to change every day because adaptability is the real innovation. So in order to really do that effectively, you have to figure out which processes need to work well together, which ones give that customer journey that you're really seeking and that you're looking for. So what specifically did Priceline do? We implemented those AI-generated summaries, not just in our contact center world, but in our customer response world for CSAT. I mentioned that earlier. And in every other facet that we could potentially identify. We partnered with all of our tool makers, some are in the room today, to make sure that when we were doing that, we had the same look, the same feel, and the same human approach, whether it was the bot or the agent. We automated our quality evaluations and insights to make sure that as we're evaluating on the same context, and in the same way that we wanted that content to come across in our customer interactions. As a matter of fact, we evaluate our chatbot almost identical to how we evaluate our agent. The experience is the experience, and we want to make sure that they are equal wherever they should be. And then we created CSAT surveys that really looked at the customer comments, and what we could do better next. We enabled real-time analysis for customer interactions to flag compliance issues. And the results were almost immediate and were very impactful. The first thing we were able to do is to reduce the manual effort that increased our consistency. We improved response rates and actionable feedback, and we reduced after-call work. How many of you would like to have those three impacts immediately? Next, we were able to increase customer satisfaction. When I first came to Priceline, we struggled in certain areas. Making these changes resulted in immediate increases in customer satisfaction, not just in our agent population, but also in our AI world. Because again, we parallel these activities to make sure that they're working seamlessly. And then last, again, but certainly not least, we make sure we had improved handoff for quality and resolution to speed. We understand that there are some things that our customers just need to speak to someone to handle. So where those interactions need to happen, Penny immediately identifies it. She's our chatbot, by the way. She immediately identifies it and gets that individual over to a person who can help them with that particular situation. Our second use case is one of those events that we all are familiar with, the California wildfires. And for those of you who were impacted by the wildfires, I am sincerely compassionate to that situation, and I am so sorry. Our quote here is very simple. We didn't prepare for crisis. We can't see them, right? They're unpredictable. We built a system flexible enough for the one that we couldn't see. So how do you do that? The first thing you need to do is understand dynamically your call intents. That's very hard when you have an emergency that's happening now and you need to respond very quickly. This is where AI helps us out. We were able to leverage the tools that we have in a very composable way, remember that composable AI model, in a very composable way to begin to identify our customer intents up front and then route them to the appropriate place that they needed to go almost immediately. For those who we knew didn't need to contact us, we on the back end were able to begin to enable our systems to grant relocation activities or to automatically refund so that people had that money available to go out and get other accommodations if they needed to do so. So understanding that call intent and having AI immediately tell you which customers are traveling in 5 hours versus which travelers are traveling in 48 hours was so important. As the fires moved and spread, we could readily add dates for the waivers that we needed to issue. We could add times for when these other actions needed to happen, and we could staff for areas that we knew we would need additional people. we begin to enable Penny more. So we figured out during this time that Penny could do more than what we thought she could do. So we immediately began to enable her to respond to some of these questions. And as a result, we expanded her tier 1 support model. Last, again, but certainly not least, we understood that no new tool needed to be launched to do this. Because up front, we partnered with the right people and we had the right composable model in place, we were able to plug and play and shift our existing processes and our existing tools to meet our customers' need. This again had an immediate result. There was a decrease in customers needing to contact an agent, which is amazing. Our agents could then focus on the harder things, the more complex things, the things that had compliance needs. And it allows us to streamline the process and helped travelers get to their need faster. This is probably one of the things that Priceline is most proud of, because in an hour of need, we were able to help people first of all, get away from the fires or make other arrangements for their families as they needed to do so. So this is one of our prouder moments. All right, another use case. Penny Chatbot. I've talked a lot about Penny Chatbot and self-service a lot so far, but I think this quote is probably one of the most important ones that I can speak about. We didn't just launch a bot, we engineered an experience. When we began to design Penny, our chatbot, we didn't do so with a certain amount of calls that we wanted to divert in mind. We didn't start that conversation with, we want the coolest, newest technology. We started the conversation with, what experience do we want to impact the most? What journey do we want that customer to have? And what impact do we need to make in someone's lives? Because again, our purpose is to make sure people experience the moments that matter to them the most. And so one of the first things we made sure we did was to identify high volume, low friction interactions. And that's where we started with Penny. What's our high volume, low friction interaction? What's that low hanging fruit that we know she's going to be successful in? And then we designed our bot to provide clarity with speed. Nobody talks to the bot because they have a lot of time. Most times we're looking for speed when we want to talk to the bot. So we wanted those things, or we wanted things designed so that you had clarity with that speed that you're looking for. We also orchestrated faster handoffs where we knew we couldn't provide clarity and speed. And then last, we made sure that we didn't build the bot, and here it is, to replace people. The bot doesn't replace people, it works in tandem with people to enhance the overall experience. And so what are our results? We were able to allocate agents to the more complex. We have insight-driven call handling now. That intent work that we did during the wildfires helps us to still inform what things should be going on the front end to the bot, what things do we need to reserve for the agents, and let's create balance in the two. And then having insight-driven call handling also from a lens of, what do our customers need? How do we improve our product? What do we do next in this world to help to make sure that we're meeting that deal or making that negotiation for them that's really going to help them to get to that next travel experience. The final thing I'll say about Penny is that she handles what's fast and frequent so that our teams can focus where empathy matters the most. Last use case, I know I'm running out of time here, is around knowledge and training creation. So here, I don't know about in your world, things change a lot and things change rapidly in Priceline. So we have content, that moves at the speed of change, is what we like to say. So one of the things we looked at is, how can we begin to create content in the framework of the world of the contact center? What tools do we need in order to be able to do that? Or do we already have those tools? And guess what? We already have them. We begin to use what we call unified learning and support materials. And that learning and those support materials are now being integrated into our overall call processes and our call flow. We wanted our knowledge bases to be integrated into the actual tools that our agents are using, and then to also have that same information being filtered through our chatbot systems, through our IVR systems, through all of the things, through our customer information, through all of those portals, so that we're helping people faster and we're meeting those needs better. We began to use that same tool to create illustrations, to create videos, and to make intricate concepts simple and easily understood by anyone that was interacting with it. We leveraged AI-powered tools to develop some of the visuals and the content that you'll see in our websites even. So we're literally integrating that system of technology in every facet of our work to make sure that we are operating at a rate of change. The result, we have been able to ensure that we give consistent answers, that when you speak to our bot, our human, or if you look at our website, the information that you receive is consistent and that you're getting the same answers. We also are able to have faster and stronger understanding, which gets us to a better rate of retention. And then, of course, improve productivity within those learning teams. All right. Key takeaways, a couple of things. Continuous AI and innovation is great, but it has to be embedded, not bolted on. Adaptability is key. Human intelligence plus machine intelligence have to work together, not in competition. And a framework of continuous improvement, not a feature, is what has to be the true foundation. Finally, compliance, resilience, and scalability are the proven real-world moments. Doing these things has allowed us to reduce ACW, improve CSAT, and have faster resolution. Okay, I will invite Shafali back up.
We are open to questions. We have a few minutes. We are also happy to stay longer after the session as well. But any questions? Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
So interestingly enough, those are AWS, and we do use that modular format that they have to scale up and scale down where we have need to. So Shafali, do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, sure. So as I said previously as well, our goal is to make AI more operational within the Connect ecosystem. So doing simple things like summarization is like just a click away, where we are not just grading the transcripts, but we're also summarizing the call for you, and lots of capabilities to add your custom prompts to deliver, very customized experiences, if you may. So, yep.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Yeah. You mentioned in your presentation that you did CChat surveys that respond to customer comments after the call. Is that where you use the AI to actually send a customized CSAT based on their interaction?
So not a customized CSAT, but a customized response. We keep our questions very specific to certain areas that we know we want to influence and impact, but the actual response based on the customer's comments is customized. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's say you just interacted with our chatbot or our agent, and you gave them all fives. I'm subliminally sending a message there. You gave them all fives, and you said, this was a great experience. I wish I could have done X. We would say, I'm so sorry that you couldn't do X. We most certainly value your opinion, and we want to make sure that we're addressing that need in the future.
Oh, okay, so it's like a that helps.
Yeah, and so our customers then feel like, hey, they're actually paying attention to what we had to say, and it's not just some prefabbed response that we're giving.
By the way, working with Priceline has been a highlight of my career. I mean, there was so much feedback from the team. We're constantly working together to improve the product, and I learned so much. Kira is also here, like Dimitri is also here, and the collaboration was amazing. And part of it is feeling the problem of your customer, and then working backwards from there. And we pretty much applied that principle, and you go from there. So, yes.
Question on the content creation piece. I don't think you're in this room right now, but you do a great job documenting tons of information about all the customer base. From the top perspective, I know probably 5% of this one's actually right?
Mm-hmm.
And these really long articles that you mentioned, you pull it out of the oh my god, what am I supposed to say? That's all I need to know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was there any resistance from the learning team of the AI is telling us maybe less is more? They want to write these big long, awesome, beautiful articles. How did that go?
So I will say from one of my teams, there was no resistance. They were excited because they're techies. They're more of the learning technologists than learning design experience folks. From others on the team, I did face resistance. And one of the things I had to begin to do is A/B test. Okay, learning technology group, you do it. You do it your way. Which one is faster? Which one is better? And what we found was, in many instances, not all, but in many instances, AI was faster and the content was more simplistic and better. And then we could leverage it again across all of the platforms if we needed to. Seeing is believing. Yes.
I was very interested in you talking about the after call or after interaction survey you have for the chatbot. Did you design it differently than how you would typically design an after call survey for an agent? Just there are a lot of things that agents do when you're being empathetic with someone that the chatbot, when you're trying to just run through and get your problem solved as fast as possible, is just a very different experience.
So initially, the answer is yes. And then we took a step back and said, no, we don't want to do it that way. And we redesigned both evaluations to look at each piece of the work or each piece of the journey equally. So the questions that you get when you interact with Penny, same questions that you're going to get when you interact with an agent. And we're even expanding it beyond that to other areas of self-service and other places. It also gives us the opportunity to compare apples to apples. Any other questions?
All right, if not, we'll give you 3 minutes back. You've been a great audience. Thank you so much. Thank you.